This is How to Kill a Piano, episode 13. I'm George Tait. We're, of course, gathered here on Monday, although it's probably not Monday where you are, but perhaps you are actually listening to this on a Monday, to get to chapter 13 of our story. Before we delve into it, and I promise we will in just a moment, I want to say a few words, because times like these, even if it is not the same time that I have right now, where you're listening to this, wherever you are right now. Sometimes life makes it feel like that everything is completely out of our control. But the one thing that you always have control over, all the time, 24/7, is the power and control to create stuff. In fact, this right now is the best time to be creating things. Our creations have the ability and power to touch people's lives. They can inspire smiles. And those creations also have the potential to change the world for the better. So if you ever feel like you don't have control over anything and life is just spiraling out of your control, know that no matter your situation, you always have control. You have the power to create wonderful things. No matter what. So, let's make the world a better place together. My goal with this podcast and How to Kill a Piano is simply that. It's to never stop creating, never stop thinking, and never forgetting to love. I appreciate all of you who listen to this week after week, those of you who have shared this week after week, day after day. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart, as always. And without further ado, Chapter 11, The Music Teacher. Sarah Swathi lived across town, past the island where Charlie and I frequented often. She lived in a split-level home where the floor levels are staggered. In Sarah's house, there were two short sets of stairs. The first ran upward to where I can only assume the living quarters were. She never let guests into that section of the house. The other short set of steps ran down towards the lower basement level. That's where Sarah's music room was. Funny how pianos always seem to gravitate underground. I mean, have you ever seen an orchestra pit installed above floor level? They're called pits for a reason. The front door was a dark painted brown and was covered in music notes. Sarah would always insist on everyone removing their footwear as her two pups, Backlin and Sticks, would greet us by licking our socks like they were popsicles on a warm day. Sarah and the pups would then shepherd us past the foyer until we'd arrive at a few short brown carpeted covered steps that descended down to the lower level. Her baby grand piano would greet us as the centerpiece of the room in front of the grand fireplace made of floor-to-ceiling stone. Her baby grand was different from ours. It had an inviting aura. It was painted black with a high gloss finish that reflected as if it were a mirror. The lid was propped open and you could see the inner workings reflected on the inside surface. The crackling flames in the fireplace reflected against the piano, projecting onto the walls of the room, making everything illuminate in a strange dance of life. The dogs always followed us as we'd walk further down the hallway and into Sarah's music room. In this room, no space was neglected. As you walked in, you'd find two additional pianos. Both were uprights. The first was to the right as we walked into the room. This was the piano Sarah always played from. The second hugged the next wall at the corner so that the two pianos formed an L shape. Charlie would sit with whatever book he brought with him on the green velvet couch opposite Sarah's piano bench. That first day, Charlie brought with him Henry Hayes' Amateur Magician's Handbook. This was one of Charlie's favorites, and he often returned to it for both review and to discover new magical treasures that he'd study while my lessons were going on. I sat at the second set of keys between them, readying myself for the day's lesson. Sarah was absolutely covered in ink. It started with a music note tattooed on the inside of her left wrist. This then blended into a music staff that curled around and up her arm into a masterful sleeve of artwork that was filled with shades of turquoise and blues. Between her shoulder blades, at the base of her neck, peeked a white lotus flower. I often found myself hypnotized by the perfect shape of each petal as she played that day's piano piece. She kept a jar of biscuits on top of her piano, like one might see a tip jar stuffed with cash balanced meticulously so that passers-by might notice and contribute. Styx would make herself comfortable near Sarah's feet. As Sarah presented the daily song, sometimes her hands would move so quickly over the keys that it appeared as if she had 4 arms and hands that danced over the keyboard. Her entire body played the music. She always joked that the piano was a full contact sport. While she played, she occasionally snuck a biscuit down to Styx, who received it with anticipation. She scruffled her ears with the arch of her bare foot and painted toes, and continued on playing until finishing the piece. Every lesson brought a new song and a new shade of nail polish. Bachlin would often make herself scarce during our lessons. I always assumed she was shy. Sarah would joke that after she got her biscuit, she'd be off patrolling the house to protect the castle while we work. When she came to rest at the end of the composition, Sarah took a breath, let it out, relaxed her shoulders, and then turned the focus back to me. During those first few lessons, I was expected to meticulously study each dot on the sheet music until I mastered the art of sight reading. I was a bit stubborn and nervous to touch the piano in front of me. The first time I reached out to play the first few notes, the fallboard snapped down on my fingers. I lurched back. Charlie didn't seem to notice and kept reading. Sarah leaned in and said quietly, "Remember, a piano will always, always go for the kill if you let it." Wait. Did an adult actually see a piano for what it was? Evil? Before I could get a word out, Sarah continued, "Don't let the piano deceive you. It might look intimidatingly hardy, but at its soul, it's a delicate instrument. Listen closely." Sarah reached over to my piano and gently opened the fallboard, exposing the keys. Had she noticed that the piano just tried to bite me? She tapped lightly on a few of the black keys. The fallboard didn't budge. She twinkled her fingers over a few of the white keys. The piano responded softly, almost as if it was purring beneath her fingerprints. Give it a try. See how lightly you can tap a key and still get it to respond with a sound. Will it hurt me? I inquired nervously. Only if you expect it to, came the candid reply. I hesitantly reached out again and jerked back just before I touched the keys. Gently now, relax your shoulders and stroke, caress, explore, she encouraged me. I started stroking a few keys, doing my best to mimic Sarah's actions. To my surprise, the piano began to purr. I could feel the keys vibrate. That's good, keep going, she encouraged me some more. Notice how the piano takes on a soft, almost chime-like quality. Now, apply a bit more pressure. You'll hear it get louder. You'll feel it sound brighter. The more percussive it gets, the more excited the piano sings with you. I started to mimic the note pattern that Sarah had played. I couldn't believe it. I found the perfect balance. I was playing safely. Lessons continued every Tuesday. Charlie would find a new coin trick in his book to get lost in. Sarah would find a new piece of music for me to discover. Styx would find new ways to appreciate her usual biscuit, and Bachlin would go off on the weekly ritual patrol. After each lesson, I'd return home with Charlie, and every evening I'd brave the labyrinth of books alone and slowly gain the Hazelton Brothers piano's trust. Lulling our heirloom into a false sense of security, I was determined to win. Every evening, I'd hear Charlie play. Every morning, he'd still have no memory of his melodies. I even stopped being whisked away from the piano on Screwtape's dastardly whims. A year passed, and during our next music lesson, Charlie had discovered that he nearly mastered his favorite coin trick that he had been practicing on Sarah's couch every Tuesday. He would arrange 4 silver coins in a square formation, cover each with a paper dollar. Then the 3 coins would instantly vanish from beneath each of the bills, only to assemble appearing together, gathered under one bill in the corner. During this lesson, I discovered that I could listen and parrot back most of the songs that Sarah introduced me to quite quickly. During this lesson, Sarah discovered that I had been sidestepping the sheet music at home instead of keeping faithful study. I attempted to impress her by closing the sheet music and doing my best to play it back without ever reading through it. Reading music wasn't like reading books. It was an entirely different language that I didn't yet have the patience to learn. As I began to play, Charlie put down his book, the coins, and the bills, taking a moment to appreciate the music with full focus. "He's not bad, Charlie. He must get that talent from you." "Me? I only know a few guitar chords and can only play until my fingers get tired. The piano is unfortunately lost on me," Charlie depreciated. "Don't think I haven't noticed how dexterous you are while you sit there on my couch every lesson practicing those parlor tricks from that old book you're always reading. I have no idea how you do it. I don't suppose you'd tell me." "Can you keep a secret?" Charlie leaned forward and began scooping up the bills to uncover the coins. "Of course." "So can I." Charlie winked as he whisked away all of the bills, revealing that all the coins were nowhere to be found. As the years went on, I started to realize that not all of Charlie's jokes were brilliant, but his magic tricks always blew my mind. Sarah, well impressed with Charlie's coin trick and completely fooled by it, only pretended to be impressed with my playing. In truth, she was stalling as she worked up a lesson in her mind. She turned to me softly. "George, you have a very good ear. That will only enhance your abilities once you've learned to sight read properly. Navigating the piano with your ear alone will cause one to miss the important details that composers meticulously craft. Learn a piece inside out. Surrender yourself into it, and only then will you be able to truly explore it with your own voice." "Was it that bad?" I asked. "It was decent. Learning music by ear is like trying to recite back a book on tape with one listen. It's best to read the book a few times if you really want to master the story. Otherwise, you're going to miss the nuances that breathe it into life. You can accomplish some incredible skills. The piano can move people, and it can stop people in an instant. If you put the right notes together, entire worlds open up. Watch, and more importantly, listen closely. You're not here by any coincidence." As Charlie picked up his book and started to turn the pages to get back to where he left off, Sarah struck a series of 3 chords, starting with a minor 7th, on her piano's upper register. Charlie's hand froze mid-turn. His eyes looked like glass marbles that had been shoved into his eye sockets. If it weren't for Styx spinning herself around to face Charlie and happily wagging her tail beneath the piano bench, it would have seemed as if time had come to a full stop. "Charlie," I begged with concern. "Oh, he's fine," Sarah soothed. "How did you... But how is he? Did you really think you were here only to study the classics? That will only hold for a few moments. Let's use this time wisely." Sarah tossed a biscuit to the floor, but Styx hadn't noticed. She picked it up expertly between her toes and nudged it in front of her puppy. Gently closing the fall board in front of her, she soothed her piano. "There, right there. Good." "Is he safe?" I inquired with urgency. "Oh, completely." I sighed with relief and tried to re-examine what was happening. "That's clever. Is it mesmerism? I've read a bit about hypnosis in one of Charlie's books. I tried it on Charlie once, but I think he was just playing along to make me feel good. Is he playing along now?" I stopped him. Not forever, just for now. What do you mean you stopped him? Can he hear us? He's completely unaware of what's happening. Sarah grabbed a second biscuit from the jar. The sound of the glass ringing as the biscuit was removed was enough to get Sticks' attention. She sat obediently at Sarah's feet, staring at the hand holding the treat in anticipation. Sarah prepared to drop it as her right hand lifted the fall board, hit another 3 chords, and the cookie dropped from her fingertips. It fell no more than 6 inches before coming to an abrupt halt in midair. Sticks made a motion that she was about to jump for it. "Wait," Sarah ordered, while raising a hand with the palm toward Sticks. Sticks did a short little dance with her front paws anxiously on the floor, begging for the okay. She stood up and walked over to Charlie, gently taking the frozen book from his hands. Charlie was frozen in the moment, like a living statue that had yet to receive a tip allowing him to move. Bachlan tells me Charlie is in a world of trouble, that Screwtape and Wormwood have been up to something, and that she brought you here so that we can help him. Did you just say your dog spoke to you? Normally, if you told me that your dog could talk, I'd think you're crazy. But you just froze my uncle, and how do you know the piano guys? Sarah continued to page through the book with curiosity until she came to the coin trick Charlie had been practicing. She took a moment to silently read through a few paragraphs. Clever old man. That's beautifully simple and masterfully complex, and yet not magic. Well played. Sarah carefully replaced the book in Charlie's hands. Okay, you really need to tell me what's going on here and let us go. You're not my prisoner. Bachlan trotted into the room, wagging a stub of a tail. She always did this near the end of our lesson. This time was different. As Sarah ran her hand along her fur coat, the hair on her back shortened and became a gray cloak of cotton. Her back legs grew longer, her front legs stretched into human arms. I wasn't scared. In fact, I felt an overwhelming feeling of calm in the pit of my stomach. I remember only feeling this way the day Charlie discovered a traveling salesman in his tea leaves. Do you have any memory of my Sharon from that day in the alley? How about that time outside the library with the megaphone? Or maybe you can recall the first time you saw Charlie transform that first night that you had a piano at home, Sarah inquired. I shrugged my shoulders as I started to remember. You know how tricky it is for the living to remember me, Bachlan reminded, as she leaned into Sarah as they embraced with a kiss. The perimeter is safe, for now, but I must get back to the ferry. I have passage to Shepherd, and you really must speed along our business here. Do you think he's ready? Sarah gave the motion for Sticks to grab her treat, which she did with eagerness. We don't have much choice but to be ready, my love. We can finish his training quickly. Will someone please tell me what's happening before my brain explodes? I begged. Sharon's cloak collapsed into the carpet, into nothing, taking her with it. Talking dogs, shape-shifting dogs, I'm losing it. Is your dog named Bachlan or is it Sharon? Charlie's already lost it. Am I dead? I was having a nervous breakdown. I was sure of it. Not yet. You must not worry about death. Sharon will always see to that. You have my promise. Here, have a biscuit. Try not to forget this time. Oh, don't worry. They're organic. That concludes this week's chapter of How to Kill a Piano. Thanks so much for listening and making it to the end of this recording. If you would like to see Charlie's coin trick, you can head over to howtokillapiano.com. That's howtokillapiano.com. And you will see a video performance on our post that is associated with this episode 13. While you're there, if you didn't check out the bonus track from last week, that's also posted up on last week's blog post there at howtokillapiano.com as well. As always, please, please, please share this with your friends. Write a review if you haven't already. That really helps us get noticed out there in the podcast world. The more reviews, the more 5-star reviews that we have, the better. You can leave a review on iTunes, on Spotify, on our Facebook page at How to Kill a Piano. You can find us on YouTube at Think George Tait. As always, the story was written by yours truly. The music was played and improvised live to tape by me at my Yamaha electric piano. There was a hint of Beethoven's Für Elise in there. There was a hint of Chopin's Death March as well. The other songs were mostly improvised, although there was also a specific song that I call the Cool Down, which was played during this track. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.